The engagement ring hit the hardwood floor with a sharp metallic clang before anyone at the table could react. Every conversation inside the private dining room stopped. My fiancé's mother froze with her champagne glass halfway to her lips. His younger sister looked from the ring, to me, then to her brother with wide, confused eyes. Daniel didn't even bend down to pick it up. Instead, he looked at me like I had just embarrassed him in front of the people who mattered most. "Emily," he said through clenched teeth. "What the hell are you doing?" I didn't answer, because just 15 minutes earlier, I'd heard something that had destroyed 7 years of my life. His older brother had laughed quietly before saying, "So, after tonight you'll officially be tied to her forever. Any regrets?" Daniel didn't hesitate. Only one. There was a pause. I wish I'd never settled for Emily. I stopped walking. The hallway outside the restaurant's wine cellar suddenly felt too small to breathe in. His brother chuckled. "I figured you'd get over Claire eventually." Daniel let out a bitter laugh. "You don't get over someone like Claire." My heart stopped. Claire, the woman he dated before we met. The woman he always claimed was just a stupid college relationship, the woman who had supposedly meant nothing anymore. "I still think about her every single morning," Daniel admitted. "If she'd called me today, I'd leave Emily before dessert." I couldn't move, I couldn't breathe, I couldn't even cry. His brother lowered his voice. "So why are you marrying Emily?" Daniel answered with a sentence that made my knees almost give out. "Because love doesn't pay for the life I want." 3 hours earlier, I'd been standing in my apartment surrounded by white roses, garment bags, and half-packed gift boxes. Our engagement dinner wasn't supposed to be extravagant. Just immediate family, a few close friends, and the people who had watched our relationship grow over the last 7 years. Daniel always said he hated flashy events. He wanted something intimate. Something meaningful, so I'd spent nearly 3 months planning every detail. The restaurant overlooked Lake Michigan. The menu included every one of his favorite meals. Even the playlist had songs from road trips we'd taken together. I wanted him to feel loved, safe, celebrated. Looking back now, I wonder if he ever deserved any of it. At 27, I honestly believed I'd already met the man I'd spend the rest of my life with. We met when I was 20. I had just transferred to the University of Wisconsin after changing majors for what felt like the third time. He was funny, patient, confident in a way that made everyone around him relax. He remembered tiny details about people. He always knew exactly what to say. My dad loved him. My mom called him the son she never had. Even my younger brother, who disliked almost everyone, respected him. For years, I thought I was the luckiest woman alive. I had absolutely no idea. I was only convenient. For 7 years, I believed every milestone in our relationship had happened because Daniel loved me. Our first apartment, our first dog, weekend trips to Door County. Late-night grocery runs where we'd argue over cereal and end up laughing in the checkout line. The engagement, every memory felt real. At least, it did to me. Looking back, the signs had always been there. I just kept explaining them away. Whenever someone mentioned Claire, Daniel's mood changed. He never smiled, he never laughed, he just became quiet. The first time I noticed it was 3 years into our relationship. We were at one of his college friends' weddings. Someone asked if he'd heard Claire had moved back to Chicago. Daniel nearly dropped the drink in his hand. He recovered quickly, smiled, and changed the subject. I remember teasing him on the drive home. "You looked like you'd seen a ghost." He laughed. I just wasn't expecting to hear her name. That answer satisfied me. Now, it makes me sick. The engagement dinner had started perfectly. Everyone looked happy. His mother hugged me the second she arrived. "You've done such a beautiful job, sweetheart." His father shook my hand. I've never seen Daniel this lucky. Lucky if only he knew. Daniel couldn't stop smiling. He wrapped an arm around my waist as guests congratulated us. He kissed my forehead, held my hand, introduced me as his future wife. If I hadn't overheard that conversation, I would have believed every second of it. About an hour into dinner, Daniel's older brother, Ryan, stood up. "I'm stealing the groom for 5 minutes." Everyone laughed. Daniel shrugged. "Don't let them eat all the steak." The two of them disappeared toward the hallway near the wine cellar. A few minutes later, the waiter asked me where Daniel was. "We're ready for the champagne toast." "I'll grab him," I said. That simple decision changed my life forever. The hallway was quiet. Soft jazz from the dining room echoed faintly behind me. As I got closer, I heard Ryan laughing. "You're really going through with this?" Daniel sighed. "What choice do I have?" I slowed down. Ryan lowered his voice. "You still love Claire," Daniel answered immediately. I never stopped. Every word after that felt like another knife. I wake up next to Emily wishing it was Claire. I only proposed because everyone expected me to. I'm tired of pretending. Ryan didn't interrupt, he just listened. Then came the sentence I knew I'd never forget. If Claire ever gave me another chance, I'd disappear from Emily's life without looking back, my vision blurred. I pressed my hand against the wall to stop myself from falling. 7 years, reduced to one conversation. I wanted to run inside, I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the engagement ring in his face. Instead, I stood completely still. Then Ryan asked a question that made everything even worse. If that's how you feel, why haven't you left her already? Daniel let out a long breath. Because walking away now would cost me everything. Ryan stayed silent. Daniel continued. You know her dad's company is about to choose a new executive director. My name is already being discussed. I've spent years building that trust. If I leave Emily now, I lose the career. I've spent 7 years chasing. The hallway spun around me. This wasn't just about another woman anymore. It wasn't just betrayal. It was a plan, a 7-year plan, and I had been the investment. I don't remember walking back to the dining room. One moment I was standing in that hallway, trying to process what I'd just heard. The next, I was smiling at relatives who were congratulating me on a future that suddenly felt fake. Emily, my aunt waved me over. Where's the happy couple? We need pictures before dessert. I forced a smile. Daniel will be right back. The words tasted like poison. A minute later, Daniel and Ryan walked in as if nothing had happened. Daniel caught my eye from across the room. He smiled, the same warm smile I'd fallen in love with 7 years ago. For a split second, I wondered if I'd imagined everything. Then he walked over, slipped his hand around my waist and kissed the side of my head. There you are, he whispered. I've been looking for you. The lie came so naturally that it made my stomach turn. The photographer gathered everyone near the windows overlooking the lake. Fiancé and fiancé in the middle, she said cheerfully. Daniel wrapped an arm around my shoulders. Closer, the photographer laughed. You two are getting married, not posing for a driver's license. Everyone laughed. I did too, at least it sounded like I was laughing. Inside, I felt completely numb. Perfect, the photographer said. Now look at each other. I turned toward Daniel. He looked into my eyes with the same expression he'd practiced for years, soft, loving, convincing. Anyone looking at that photo would see two people deeply in love. Only one of us was acting. Dinner continued. People shared stories about us. His mother talked about the first time she'd met me. My dad joked about how nervous Daniel had been when he asked for permission to propose. Everyone kept saying how perfect we were together. Every compliment felt like another reminder that I was the only person in the room who knew the truth. Then Daniel stood up. He tapped his glass with a spoon. I want to say something. The room fell silent. He reached for my hand. I fought every instinct telling me to pull away. When I met Emily, he began, I had no idea she'd become the most important person in my life. My chest tightened. She believes in me even when I don't believe in myself. Several guests smiled. His mother wiped away a tear. I honestly don't know where I'd be without her. Another lie. I can't wait to spend the rest of my life making her as happy as she's made me. The room erupted in applause. Someone shouted to the happy couple. Glasses lifted. Everyone cheered. I raised mine too, but I didn't take a sip. I was too busy wondering how someone could lie so effortlessly. As everyone settled back into their seats, my phone buzzed in my purse. I glanced down. Unknown number. Normally I would have ignored it. Instead, I opened the message. There was only one sentence. Don't marry him. He's lying to you about much more than Claire. My heart skipped a beat. Before I could react, another message appeared. If you want proof, don't tell anyone. Meet me tomorrow at 10 a.m. Come alone. No name, no explanation, just an address in downtown Chicago. I stared at the screen, trying to understand who could have sent it. Then I looked up. Across the room, Ryan was already looking at me. The second our eyes met, he quickly looked away. And for the first time that night, I realized Claire might not be the only secret Daniel had been hiding. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Daniel's voice again. I wish I'd never settled for Emily. Love doesn't pay for the life I want. At around 3 a.m, Daniel rolled over and wrapped his arm around my waist. For 7 years, that simple gesture had made me feel safe. This time, I had to fight the urge to move away. Instead, I lay perfectly still until he fell back asleep. Then I quietly slipped out of bed. The next morning, Daniel was already making coffee when I came downstairs. He smiled the moment he saw me. Morning, beautiful, beautiful. The same man who had called another woman the most beautiful person he'd ever seen. You okay? He asked. You seem tired. I didn't sleep much, he nodded sympathetically. Yesterday was emotional, wedding planning can be stressful. I almost laughed, if only he knew what was actually keeping me awake. He walked over and kissed my forehead. I have a meeting this morning, but I'll be home early. Maybe we can start looking at honeymoon destinations tonight. I forced a smile. Sounds good. He grabbed his keys. I love you. There it was again, 3 words spoken so casually, so effortlessly, as if they meant absolutely nothing. I love you too, I lied. The front door closed behind him. The second I heard his car pull away, my smile disappeared. At 9:30, I drove toward the address from the text message. It led me to a quiet coffee shop tucked between 2 office buildings in downtown Chicago. The place was nearly empty. I stepped inside and looked around. A woman sitting in the back corner slowly stood up. She looked to be in her early 30s, dark hair, blue eyes, professional business suit. She smiled politely. Emily, I nodded cautiously. Who are you? She extended her hand. My name is Sarah. I worked with Daniel for almost 4 years. My stomach tightened. You sent the messages? She nodded. I did. Why? Instead of answering, she slid a thick brown envelope across the table. I think you should look at this first. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were printed emails. Screenshots, financial reports, and several photographs. The first picture showed Daniel sitting in an expensive restaurant. Across from him was Claire. The date printed in the corner made my heart sink. 3 weeks ago, another photo. Daniel and Claire walking out of a hotel together. 2 months ago, another. The 2 of them laughing inside what looked like an airport lounge. 5 months ago, I couldn't breathe. They've been seeing each other for over a year, Sarah said quietly. No, I whispered. He told everyone they haven't spoken in years. Sarah gave me a sad smile. That's one of many lies. I looked down at another document. It was an email from Daniel. My eyes immediately found one sentence. Once I'm officially part of her family's company, none of this will matter anymore. My hands began trembling so badly that the papers slipped onto the table. I looked up at Sarah. What is this? She hesitated for a moment. Then she said the words that changed everything. Emily, this was never just an affair. From the very beginning, you were part of a plan. I stared at Sarah, convinced I'd misheard her. A plan, she nodded slowly. I wish I were wrong. The coffee shop suddenly felt too quiet. Outside, people walked past the windows carrying coffees, talking on their phones, laughing with coworkers. The world was moving exactly as it always had. Mine had just stopped. Sarah took a deep breath. I never wanted to get involved, but after what I found out, I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I swallowed hard. What exactly did you find out? She opened a folder inside the envelope. There are things I can't prove yet. But these, she pushed several documents toward me. These I can. The first page was an internal company email. It had been sent almost 6 years earlier. The sender was Daniel. The recipient was someone named Mark Ellison. The subject line read, potential long-term opportunity. My stomach tightened. I kept reading. Emily Carter's father is expected to retire within the next several years. If I stay in the relationship, I'll naturally become part of the family's inner circle. I stopped breathing. My eyes moved to the next sentence. The return on investment is worth the wait. Return on investment. That was how he described 7 years with me. Not love, not a future, an investment. I found that email by accident, Sarah said quietly. I worked in corporate compliance. Daniel asked me to organize some archived files. She looked down at her coffee. I wasn't supposed to read it, but I did. I looked at her. Why didn't you tell me then? I tried. She reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. There, she showed me an old Facebook message. It had been sent to me almost 4 years ago. Message request. I'd never accepted it. It had gone straight into the hidden folder. The message read, Emily, I don't know you personally, but I think you deserve to know something about Daniel. Please contact me. I never saw it, not once. Tears blurred my vision. I would have believed you. Sarah gave me a sympathetic smile. I know. Silence settled between us. Finally, I asked the question I had been avoiding. Is he still seeing Claire? Sarah didn't answer immediately. Instead, she handed me one last photograph. It had been taken only 8 days ago. Daniel and Claire were standing outside a lake house. He wasn't just hugging her, he was kissing her. The kind of kiss you don't fake, the kind of kiss people share when they think no one is watching. I felt something inside me break, not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly. Like the final thread holding my heart together had finally snapped. I'm so sorry, Sarah whispered. I know this is overwhelming. I wiped away my tears. Does Claire know about me? Sarah hesitated, then she nodded. She knows. The words hit even harder than the photograph. She Knows we're engaged, yes, and she's still with him. Sarah looked away. Emily, they've both been lying to you. Before I could ask another question, Sarah's phone suddenly buzzed. She glanced at the screen, the color immediately drained from her face. What is it? I asked. She stood up so quickly her chair scraped across the floor. We have to leave. What? She grabbed the envelope and shoved it back into my hands. Now, Sarah, what's going on? She looked through the front window, parked across the street. Was Daniel's black SUV, and he was getting out of the driver's seat. My heart slammed against my ribs. That's Daniel. Sarah didn't wait for another second. Come with me. She grabbed her purse and rushed toward the back exit of the coffee shop. I stood frozen. How did he know I was here? I never told anyone about the text messages. I never mentioned this meeting. I had been careful, so, who told him? Sarah looked back. Emily, her voice snapped me out of it. I clutched the envelope against my chest and followed her through the employee hallway. An older barista held the back door open for us. Everything okay? He asked. Sarah forced a smile. Yeah. Just in a hurry. The moment we stepped into the alley, she turned to me. Get in your car and drive somewhere public. What about you? I'll be fine. No, I'm not leaving until you tell me what's happening. Sarah looked exhausted, then she finally said it. Daniel figured out someone inside the company copied those emails. My stomach dropped. He suspected me months ago. What? He couldn't prove it. But he's been watching me ever since. A cold chill ran through my body. Watching you, she nodded. He follows me sometimes. He checks who I meet. He even questioned people in my office. I stared at her. This is insane. I know. She glanced toward the street. We don't have much time. Before I could respond, the back door burst open. A familiar voice echoed through the alley. Emily, Daniel. I turned instinctively. He was jogging toward us. His expression wasn't angry. It looked worried. Emily, what are you doing here? I didn't answer. His eyes shifted to Sarah. For just a fraction of a second, his smile disappeared. Then it came right back. Sarah, I didn't know you two knew each other. Neither of us spoke. He laughed awkwardly. This is unexpected. Sarah folded her arms. I was just leaving. Daniel's eyes never left hers. I think you and I should talk. His voice was calm, too calm. Sarah took one step backward. I don't think we have anything left to discuss. For the first time in 7 years, I saw something in Daniel's face I'd never seen before. Pure calculation. He wasn't deciding what to say. He was deciding how much we knew. He looked at me and smiled softly. Emily, can we go home? Whatever this is, I'm sure there's a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. I slowly pulled the photograph from the envelope, the one showing him kissing Claire. His face lost all color. I held it up between us. Is this a misunderstanding too? Silence. He stared at the picture for several seconds. Then, he sighed, not with guilt, with annoyance, as I thought. He rubbed the bridge of his nose. You've been talking to the wrong people. The wrong people. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You told me you hadn't seen Claire in years. I can explain. You told your family you loved me. I do care about you. Care, my voice cracked. You said you wished you'd never settled for me. His eyes widened. For the first time, he realized exactly what I'd overheard at the engagement dinner. The silence between us lasted only a few seconds. Then Daniel did something I never expected. He stopped pretending. A faint smile appeared on his face. So, you heard that conversation. There was no apology, no regret, no shame, just acceptance. I nodded slowly, every word. He looked down at the pavement for a moment. When he looked back at me, his eyes were completely different, cold, emotionless, almost like I was talking to a stranger. Then he said quietly, I guess there's no point lying anymore, and what he admitted next made everything Sarah had shown me seem small. Daniel didn't blink, he didn't look ashamed. He didn't even try to deny it. Instead, he slipped both hands into his pockets and let out a slow breath. I was hoping you'd never find out like this. I stared at him in disbelief. Like this, that's your concern? He shook his head. No, my concern is that someone decided to interfere. He glanced at Sarah. You should have stayed out of this. Sarah stepped closer to me. I wasn't going to let you destroy another person's life. Daniel gave a quiet, almost amused laugh. Destroy? He looked back at me. Emily, you're acting like none of this benefited you. I felt my stomach twist. What are you talking about? For 7 years you've lived a comfortable life. We traveled. We bought a beautiful home. You never had to worry about bills. You had a partner, everyone admired. He shrugged. I kept my end of the deal. The deal, I repeated. My life wasn't a business contract. He sighed as if I were being unreasonable. Maybe not to you, but that's how relationships work for a lot of people. I couldn't believe the man standing in front of me was the same person I'd loved for 7 years. You never loved me, I whispered. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked down at the engagement ring still on my finger. I cared about you. Those 4 words hurt even more than if he'd simply said no. I respected you. I enjoyed being with you. But love, he slowly shook his head. No, tears burned my eyes. Then why ask me to marry you? His answer came without hesitation, because it was the next logical step. I felt like the ground disappeared beneath me, everything. Every anniversary, every holiday, every promise, every I love you, none of it had been real. Sarah finally spoke. Tell her the rest. Daniel's jaw tightened. I don't owe anyone an explanation. You owe her the truth. For a few seconds, nobody said anything. Then Daniel laughed bitterly. You want the truth? He looked directly into my eyes. The company was always the goal. My relationship with you opened doors that would have stayed closed forever. Your father trusted me. The board trusted me. Everyone saw me as the perfect future. Son-in-law, he smiled without warmth. It worked exactly the way I planned. Every word felt like another piece of my heart breaking. So. All those family dinners, yes, the holidays, yes, meeting my grandparents, yes, our engagement, yes, it was all part of the plan. I couldn't speak. I couldn't even cry anymore. I just stared at him. The man I'd defended for years, the man I'd planned to spend my life with, didn't see me as a person. He saw me as an opportunity. Then Sarah reached into the envelope one last time. There is one thing she still doesn't know. Daniel's expression changed instantly. Sarah, she ignored him. She handed me a folded document. At the top was a familiar logo, Carter Holdings, my family's company. Below it, a confidential board report. I unfolded the first page. Halfway down, I saw Daniel's name. But the line underneath made my blood run cold. Recommendation, candidate rejected following confidential findings. Do not disclose until the next board meeting. I looked up, confused. What does this mean? Sarah met my eyes. It means your father already discovered who Daniel really is. And if Daniel doesn't know that yet, she paused. He's about to lose the only thing he spent 7 years trying to steal. Daniel snatched the report out of my hands before I could read the rest. His eyes raced across the page. For the first time since I'd met him, he looked genuinely scared. What is this? He demanded, turning to Sarah. She crossed her arms. The truth. His jaw tightened. This report is confidential. It is, Sarah replied, which means someone at Carter Holdings wanted Emily to know exactly who she was about to marry. Daniel looked back at me. Emily. Don't believe everything you read. I almost laughed. That's funny. You've spent 7 years making sure I believed everything you said. He opened his mouth to answer, but no words came out. A black sedan slowly pulled into the alley. It stopped a few feet away from us. The driver's door opened. My heart skipped a beat. Dad, my father stepped out, still wearing the navy suit he'd had on at the engagement dinner the night before. He looked exhausted, older somehow. When his eyes met mine, the guilt on his face was impossible to miss. I'm sorry, sweetheart, I frowned. You knew, he nodded once. I found out 3 weeks ago. Every emotion I'd been holding back exploded. 3 weeks, you knew he was using me and you didn't tell me. He lowered his head. I wanted proof. I prayed I was wrong. I hired a private investigator because something about Daniel stopped making sense. Daniel's face turned pale. My father continued. The investigator uncovered far more than I expected. He reached into his briefcase and handed me another folder. There are over 200 pages. I opened it. Bank statements, emails, phone records, photographs. There was even a timeline. Everything was neatly organized. My father pointed to one section. Start there. I looked down. Timeline of contact between Daniel Brooks and Claire Matthews. The first date, 6 years, 8 months ago. I froze. That wasn't possible. Daniel and I had already been together for months. I turned the page. There were dozens of phone calls, secret meetings, weekend trips, payments, hotel reservations, year after year. My hands started shaking. This has been happening almost our entire relationship. My father nodded sadly. Yes. Daniel suddenly took a step forward. Emily, listen to me. No, you don't understand. I understand enough. It wasn't what it looked like. I stared at him. You've said that 3 times today, so explain. He hesitated. For the first time, he didn't have the perfect answer. Then his phone started ringing. He glanced at the screen. His expression changed immediately. He rejected the call. A second later, it rang again. Same caller, Claire. I saw the name clearly. Without thinking, I reached for the phone. Daniel tried to pull it away. Too late. I hit accept before either of us spoke. A woman's anxious voice came through the speaker. Daniel, where are you? I just heard Carter Holdings canceled today's board meeting. Please tell me they don't know about us. the alley fell completely silent. Claire realized the line was open. Daniel, I slowly lifted my eyes to meet his. He didn't even try to deny it anymore because now, everyone had heard the truth. Nobody spoke. Claire's voice was still coming through the phone. Daniel, say something. He stared at the screen for several seconds before ending the call. The silence that followed felt heavier than anything I'd ever experienced. My father finally broke it. So, is there anything you'd like to tell my daughter? Daniel looked from me to my father, then to Sarah. For the first time in years, he wasn't in control of the conversation. He let out a slow breath. Fine, you all want the truth, I'll give it to you. He leaned against the brick wall and folded his arms. When I met Emily, I wasn't planning to use her. I didn't react. I liked her, I honestly did, but after I found out who her father was, he looked directly at my dad. Everything changed. My father didn't say a word. Daniel continued. I grew up with nothing. My parents were drowning in debt. I watched my dad work 2 jobs just to keep the lights on. I promised myself I'd never live that life, so when I realized Emily's family owned one of the biggest logistics companies in the Midwest, I saw an opportunity. My stomach turned. You mean you saw me as an opportunity? He didn't deny it. I thought I'd eventually fall in love with you. He shrugged. People said love grows. I figured they were right, but it never happened. Every sentence hit harder than the last. I kept waiting, another year, then another. I convinced myself marriage would fix it, but every time I saw Claire, his voice softened. I remembered what love actually felt like. I closed my eyes. I didn't want to hear another word, but I forced myself to listen because after today, I never wanted another unanswered question. My father stepped forward. You manipulated my daughter for 7 years. You lied to our entire family. You tried to build your career through deception. Daniel looked him straight in the eye. I earned every promotion. You earned trust under false pretenses. My father opened his briefcase one last time. This morning, the board of directors voted unanimously. He removed a single envelope. Your employment with Carter Holdings has been terminated. Daniel's face went completely blank. You can't do that. We already did. You have a contract. You violated nearly every ethics clause in it. My father handed him the envelope. Security has already deactivated your company access. Your office was cleared an hour ago, and by tomorrow morning, every client assigned to you will belong to someone else. For the first time since I'd met him. Daniel looked afraid, not because he'd lost me, because he'd lost everything he'd spent 7 years chasing. He looked at me desperately. Emily, I never wanted to hurt you. A bitter laugh escaped my lips. You just wanted everything I could give you. He took a step closer. I'm asking you to think about everything we've been through. I am, and that's exactly why I'm done. Slowly, I reached up to my left hand. The engagement ring slid off my finger without any resistance. I looked at it for a moment. 7 years, thousands of memories, millions of lies, then I placed it in Daniel's hand. You spent 7 years pretending to love me. You don't get another minute. He stared at the ring in complete silence. I turned around. My father gently placed a hand on my shoulder. Sarah walked beside me. None of us looked back. As we reached the end of the alley, I heard Daniel call my name one last time. I kept walking, because for the first time in 7 years, I wasn't walking away from the man I loved. I was walking toward the life he could never steal. 3 days passed. Daniel didn't call. He didn't text. He didn't show up at my apartment. For 7 years, I had imagined how devastating it would feel to lose him. Instead, the silence felt peaceful. It was strange. I wasn't crying anymore. I wasn't waiting for his apology. I was simply trying to figure out who I was without someone who had spent years pretending to love me. Monday morning, my father asked me to come to Carter Holdings. I want you to see something, he said. When I arrived, the atmosphere inside the building felt completely different. People who had always greeted Daniel with respect were whispering in small groups. The moment I stepped into the executive floor, several employees looked at me with sympathy. One woman quietly squeezed my hand. I'm so sorry, Emily. It was then I realized everyone knew. Dad led me into the boardroom. 12 directors were already seated. As soon as I walked in, they stood. I felt uncomfortable. I don't belong here, I whispered. My father smiled gently. Actually, you do. He placed a folder in front of me. Inside was a letter. At the top it read, Board Resolution. I looked at the final paragraph. Effective immediately, Emily Carter has been appointed to the Strategic Development Committee as the family representative. I looked up in surprise. Dad, I don't know anything about running this company. One of the board members smiled. You'll learn, unlike Daniel, you've already proven something far more valuable. What, character? Before anyone could say another word, the conference room doors suddenly opened. A security guard stepped inside. Mr. Carter, there's someone downstairs demanding to see Emily. Dad frowned. Who? The guard hesitated, then answered quietly. Claire. The room fell completely silent. No one in the boardroom said a word. My father looked at the security guard. Did she say why she's here? The guard shook his head. No, sir. She just said she won't leave until she speaks to Emily. One of the board members scoffed. Call the police. Another director nodded in agreement. She has no business being here. I looked at my father. Let me talk to her. He frowned immediately. Emily, I'll be fine. After a long pause, he finally nodded. But you're not meeting her alone. 5 minutes later, I walked into the building's private reception area. Claire was standing by the window. She looked nothing like the woman I'd imagined for years. No glamorous dress, no perfect smile, no confidence. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled into a messy bun. The second she saw me, she stood up. Emily, I didn't return the greeting. What do you want? She took a deep breath. I owe you an apology. I folded my arms. An apology for helping destroy 7 years of my life? Tears filled her eyes. You're right. I deserve that. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Then Claire quietly said, I never wanted things to go this far. I laughed bitterly. Really? You were dating my fiancé behind my back. You knew we were engaged. You knew we were planning a wedding. She lowered her head. I know, and you still met him. Yes, you still kissed him. Yes, you still lied. Yes. Every answer came with another tear, but somehow, it didn't make me feel better. Finally, she looked up. Daniel lied to both of us. I stared at her. What? He told me he was only staying with you until he could safely end the relationship. I almost laughed. He told me he loved me. Claire nodded sadly. And he told me the exact same thing. I frowned. What are you talking about? She opened her handbag and removed a small envelope. There are copies inside. I slowly opened it. Printed text messages, emails, photos. One message caught my eye immediately. Daniel, give me a few more months. Once everything is settled, Emily and I will be over and we'll finally be together. The date was 4 years ago, 4 years. He'd been promising Claire the same future for almost half our relationship. Claire wiped away her tears. I kept believing him. He always had another excuse. Another delay, another reason he couldn't leave. She looked me straight in the eyes. I wasn't innocent. I should have walked away. I should have told you. I'm sorry I didn't. For the first time since meeting her, I believed she meant it. But an apology couldn't erase years of betrayal. Just then, Claire's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. Then her face turned completely white. I noticed her hands beginning to shake. What happened? I asked. She slowly turned the phone toward me. It was a text from Daniel. There were only 8 words. If you talk, I'll make sure we both lose everything. I looked up at Claire. Before either of us could speak, the glass doors behind us slid open, and Daniel walked into the building. The entire reception area fell silent. Daniel walked through the glass doors like he still belonged there. His tie was crooked. His beard had grown in. For the first time since I'd met him, he looked like a man who hadn't slept in days. The receptionist immediately stood up. Sir, you're not authorized to be on this floor. Daniel didn't even look at her. His eyes were locked on me. Emily, I just need 5 minutes. Before I could answer, 2 security officers stepped between us. You need to leave the building. Daniel held up his hands. I'm not here to cause trouble. My father walked into the lobby with 2 board members behind him. I think you've caused enough already. Daniel's shoulders tensed. I'm here to speak with Emily. My father shook his head. No, Daniel ignored him. He looked directly at me. Please, just listen. I took a deep breath. 5 minutes. My father looked at me with concern. Emily, it's okay. He reluctantly nodded, but the security guard stayed only a few feet away. Daniel looked at me for a long moment. I know you hate me. I didn't respond. I deserve that. Another silence. Then he reached into his coat pocket and placed a thick envelope on the table between us. I brought something. I frowned. What is it? My resignation from every company connected to your family. I've also signed documents giving up any claim to the house, the investments, and everything we bought together. I looked at the papers but didn't touch them. You think paperwork fixes 7 years of lies? He lowered his head. No, it doesn't. He took a shaky breath. I've spent the last 3 nights thinking about everything. I kept telling myself I did what I had to do, but after watching you walk away, I realized I never actually won. I folded my arms. You lost because your plan failed. He looked at me with red, tired eyes. No, I lost because I destroyed the only person who ever loved me without expecting anything in return, for a second. I almost believed him, then I remembered the hallway, the hotel photos, the emails, the lies. Claire stepped forward. Daniel, he turned toward her. She held up her phone. I got your message. His face changed immediately. Claire, you threatened me. I was angry. You said you'd ruin my life. You already ruined both of our lives. The lobby became completely quiet. Claire's voice grew steadier. I'm done protecting you. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small USB drive. I made copies of everything. Daniel's expression froze. Emails, voice recordings, financial transfers. Messages between him and Claire dating back years. She placed the drive in my father's hand. I should have done this a long time ago. My father looked at her. Thank you. Daniel's shoulders slumped. He finally understood. There was no way out anymore. No explanation, no manipulation, no second chance. He looked at me one last time. I know you'll never forgive me. I met his eyes calmly. You're right, I won't. I picked up the engagement ring from my purse, the one I'd kept only as a reminder of what I'd survived. I placed it on the table in front of him. This is the last thing that ever belonged to us. I don't need it anymore. Daniel stared at the ring, but he never reached for it. Because he finally understood something he should have realized years ago. He hadn't lost a career, he hadn't lost money. He had lost the only woman who had loved him honestly, 3 months later. For the first time in years, I woke up without wondering whether I was enough. There was no wedding to plan, no fake smiles to force, no lies waiting for me over breakfast, just peace. It was amazing how quiet life became once I stopped trying to earn love from someone who had never intended to give it. Carter Holdings announced its new executive leadership that spring. The board introduced me as the newest member of the Strategic Development Committee. If someone had told me a year earlier that I'd be standing in front of hundreds of employees giving my first company presentation, I would have laughed. But pain has a strange way of introducing you to a stronger version of yourself. My father didn't give me the position because I was his daughter. He made me interview with every board member. He challenged every idea I presented. He wanted me to earn my seat, and I did for the first time in my life. I wasn't someone's girlfriend. I wasn't someone's fiancé. I was simply Emily. As for Claire, she testified during the company's internal investigation. She admitted every mistake she'd made. She accepted responsibility for hiding the truth. Afterward, she moved to another state to start over. We never became friends. Some wounds don't heal that way, but before she left, she sent me one final message. I hope one day someone loves you the way you deserve to be loved all along. I never replied. I didn't need to. And Daniel. A mutual friend told me he'd left Chicago a few weeks after everything became public. No one knew exactly where he went. No one really cared. The man who had spent 7 years chasing success lost the only things he valued: his career, his reputation, and the future he thought he could manipulate into existence. Ironically, the one thing he never tried to earn honestly was the one thing he could never get back: trust. 6 months after the engagement ended, I visited the same restaurant overlooking Lake Michigan. The place where my world had fallen apart. I sat by the same window, ordered the same dessert. This time, I smiled, not because the memories no longer hurt, but because they no longer controlled me. As I got up to leave, the waiter stopped me. I don't know if you remember me, he said. You were here for your engagement dinner. I nodded. He smiled warmly. You look much happier today. I looked out at the lake. The sun was beginning to set, painting the water in shades of gold. For a moment, I thought about the woman I had been that night. The woman who believed she had to compete for someone's love. I almost felt sorry for her. Then I quietly answered. I finally realized something. The waiter tilted his head. What was that? I smiled. The right person never makes you wonder if you're enough. I walked out of the restaurant without looking back, because sometimes the happiest ending isn't marrying the person you thought was your forever. Sometimes it's finding yourself after walking away from the person who never deserved you in the first place.